Skip Bayless here. I want to tell you about my podcast, The Skip Bayless Show. On this show, my show, I go deeper than I ever have, taking you behind the scenes of some of the biggest moments in sports, behind the headlines, even peeling back the curtain on my own personal life. I like to call it the undisputed. Instead of debating my partner Shannon Sharp, I'll tell you stories you've never heard before and let you in on what makes me, me. Make sure you listen to The Skip Bayless Show on your favorite podcast app.
As if the McCrispy couldn't get any better, Bacon and Ranch just entered the chat. The Bacon Ranch McCrispy, available at participating McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
The Purple Mafia, with your host, Paladino Joey.
Well, we'll see. The doctors would disagree, but what do they know?
So let's just say that you'll pay me because it's in your interest to pay me.
Is it worth it? I mean, you've won. You want to wipe everybody out?
I don't feel I have to wipe everybody out, Tom. Just my enemy. That's all. My father taught me many things. He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
These are wonderful things that we've achieved, and there's no limit to where we can go from here.
Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. Today is Monday, March 15th, 2010, and this is episode number 61 of Purple Mafia, which is available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. I thank each and every one of you for downloading and listening to this show, as always, and I thank all of you that have been loyal and stuck with things despite the fact it's the off season and despite the fact free agency sucks right now. It really does, but a lot of you listeners have stuck around, and I appreciate it. There's been a little drop-off just because it's the off-season. I'm sure those of you out there that have gotten a little bored during the off-season will come back, but the most loyal listeners, thank you always for sticking around. And always like it when people call in, and Anthony from L.A. did make a call-in. Now, this call-in was meant for the previous show, yet it still applies, obviously, to pretty much every single thing I'm going to talk about. So, because it's the off season, and of course, you know, regarding certain positions on the team, certain players, and a mistake that he caught. I'll get to that caught that I made on the previous show. It was a mistake. I literally said the wrong name, so it sounded bad. Basically, I was criticizing the wrong person because it came out wrong. Yeah, we'll get to that in a couple seconds here. About a 2-minute call. Very, very cool, Anthony. Keep calling in, by the way. But that's the idea. Yeah, I mean, I'd like all of you to please call in as much as possible. 209-736-7877. 209-736-7877. Well, of course, today we're going to continue the free agency talk, and as mentioned, a little more of that position talk, a little bit of draft. we're going to hint to as well. Basically, the call-in from Anthony from L.A. absolutely helps carry this show today. It really does, because it applies to virtually everything that there is to talk about right now regarding the Vikings. Except, unfortunately, that doggone running back position, because Chester Taylor disappeared. Yeah, the number 2 running back. Yeah, Chester Taylor, a guy who's, a capable number 1 quarterback and the best third down back in football. LaDainian Tomlinson. Jets. Go Jets. As Mike Tice would probably say something like that. Yeah, he's going to Broadway. He is heading to East Rutherford, New Jersey, to ball with the New York Jets. And we're going to, of course, talk about that today, which leaves us with Brian Westbrook, I guess, and they're not all too excited about the possibility of him, so that's the biggest name running back left. There's Justin Fargas, and it gets a little bit thin. It really does. And, of course, Anthony Albert Young. Albert Young is a guy that Brad Childress believes could take over that role. We'll see. We'll get into that as well. But as mentioned, let's just get to that call right now, and we'll get on with the show.
Hey, Joey. This is Anthony from L.A. just listened to your State of the Union address. Sorry I didn't call in before that. Totally slipped my mind. Next time you do one of your shows, let me know, like a day before. Send me a little Facebook message or something. That way I know I can call in, mention something. But I wanted to talk about real quick with the draft coming up and some free agents and Favre. But with the draft, I think the first two picks are going to be quarterback-wise. I mean, not the first two picks will be quarterbacks, but the first two quarterbacks taken, Sam Bradford and the young guy from Notre Dame, Jim Clausen. And I think that Tebow and McCoy might possibly fall to where the Vikings are, maybe. I'd rather go with McCoy. He's more pocket passer. I'd like to stay with that route, seeing how far it did this year. See, defensive backs. What do you think about this? If Benny Sapp stays in purple, and I would like to see this happen. Keeping Benny Sapp, making him possibly a starter, throwing Antoine at the strong spot, and Cedric Griffin, which I think had a huge year. I disagreed with you a little bit when you said that you weren't sure if he should be staying or starting. I think that's what he said. Correct me if I was wrong. And I think that he had a great year. I think that he shut down Ocho Cinco and other players too. I really didn't see him get burned that much at all, I don't think. Hopefully he comes back. I'll talk to you later. I'll call in. Give me a message, and we'll do this again.
And I thank you for that call, Anthony. A very, very well done call right there. Very knowledgeable caller is Anthony. Very knowledgeable about the National Football League and the Minnesota Vikings. Appreciate it very, very much. Real quick, though, before I comment on what was said, and I have my replies here, got to mention real quick that Purple Mafia does have a Twitter account. We do have a Twitter account, twitter.com/Purple Mafia Show, twitter.com/Purple Mafia Show. And also a super duper quick announcement. Purple Mafia now has a Facebook group. There's a group on Facebook. Simply type in Purple Mafia Minnesota Vikings. Type that in. That's probably what'll pick it up. Facebook's a little funky sometimes. So type in Purple Mafia Minnesota Vikings and it should come up. And please do join. Please do join. And of course the wall comment on there, and I'll read I'll read on there as well. Cedric Paulding also had something to say, so we'll talk about him and Dylan Richardson, who's the executive producer on the sportstuff.com. So that's another way to reach me here, and you can hear what you can be a part of the show basically by that, and it's really cool stuff. So now I'm going to get to the call here before I just keep rambling on about stuff that some of you might not want to hear. You just want me to talk about the Vikings and not the groups. Now, first of all, about letting you know to call in. Yep, I made sure I did that this week on Facebook. I'm going to try to keep in touch with Anthony from LA on that. And those of you out there also, I generally do record this show on Monday afternoons. I try to keep a schedule because of the other two shows, Timberwolves Explosion and Brave the Wild. I tend to do on Tuesday and Friday. Timberwolves Explosion Tuesday and Brave the Wild Friday. So I try to keep a schedule just to keep things organized. And of course, during football season, Monday's perfect. It's usually the day after, or Sunday or Monday. That's how it works. And then the other two I tend to have one day back, sometimes maybe Thursday or Monday for Timberwolves Explosion and Brave the Wild. So there's that explanation. Also on that whole quarterback deal with the draft, the Vikings, of course, as I mentioned in previous shows, do need to look at a quarterback possibility in the first two rounds. And that's what he meant, obviously by not two quarterbacks. He meant two possible quarterbacks in one of the first two rounds, Tim Tebow or Colt McCoy. Now, I also made a mistake on a previous show saying Tim Tebow was from Texas. Now, I got him mixed up with Colt McCoy because it happens when I'm on air. Sometimes it just comes out wrong. And guess what, folks? That's what happens when you're a one-man show. It's not like I have a co-host that's going to correct me or a producer behind me or whatever with, that's going to be in my ear saying, fix that. You meant Tim Tebow from Florida. So, it's just one of those honest mistakes. So now, yeah, Colt McCoy, I can see where he would be a better fit in terms of the pocket passer, and yeah, that does work better for the Vikings in the main frame of things. And I do think, I actually think there's a legitimate chance both of them will be available when the Vikings pick. Lots of mock drafts have Tim Tebow and McCoy slipping down into the second round, believe it or not. Pretty good thoughts. I'm not the hugest college basketball fan, so I'd like to be able to tell you which one I like more than the other. I just hear a lot about both the goods and the good things and the flaws. Some people like Tim Tebow. They think he's one of the next good players in the NFL, a guy from work and other people all over the place on the radio and all that. They think he's going to be great. Other people think he's going to be I think he's going to be the next Brady Quinn, basically, with what he's been so far. We're going to talk a miniature thing about him as well. Nothing major, just a blip in the news, since he's not that big of a name yet, the way he's gone. And, Colt McCoy, you hear things about injury prone. You hear things about he's good. You just hear back and forth. But I'm definitely going to take your word from it there, Anthony, that Colt McCoy could be a nice quarterback for this team. And hey, if one of those two guys is available with that 30th pick, I really, 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 really consider that. I mean, absolutely. Otherwise, the possibility of taking the cornerback from Michigan, his name is escaping me right now. I said it on the previous show. The cornerback from Michigan, I would not mind doing that either. The Vikings do need depth at that position in the biggest way. So now, perfect segue to the defensive backs, which is another part of the conversation. I've been talking about defensive backs extensively during free agency, during this offseason, because of the health of certain players. You got Cedric Griffin. You got Benny Sapp. And now Benny Sapp did stay, which was a part of the call. He was hoping that Benny Sapp would stay, and I was too. For one, you absolutely have to keep this guy. Then you have the possibility of Benny Sapp starting. Yes, right now Benny Sapp absolutely would start, and at the same time, I think he's a good enough cornerback to be a starter on several teams in the NFL right now, because he absolutely has been on the uptrend the past year and a half. He really has. He was originally brought in as a nickelback 2 years ago, got beat out by Gordon, and then Gordon's no longer with the Vikings. Was no longer with the Vikings. Last year we thought that Jared, I keep doing that, and I just, see? Yeah, Jared Allen is not a cornerback. Good thing I usually catch that one, though, because that's a little bit easier. Asher Allen, a lot of people thought that he was going to be the next nickelback on the Vikings, and that Benny Sapp would be the fourth guy. Benny Sapp is a pretty confident individual who wants to continue to improve. He's got a big, big heart, and I really like him. And he really wants to get better, and he ended up winning that job in a big way by working his butt off. And obviously he started in Antoine Winfield's injury issues with that Liz Frank injury. That's a fracture in the foot area. That is just it's one of those things that can really screw up a defensive back because you're trying to cover people, and when you have issues with a Liz Frank, the angles are going to be big-time problems, especially at the cornerback position. So, yeah, the idea of moving him to strong safety, absolutely. Absolutely, I support the idea of moving Antoine Winfield to strong safety. Now, actually, the guy I meant, I was going to say it was Asher Allen shouldn't be a starter. I meant Tyrell Johnson. Tyrell Johnson is not really a starter to me. That's who I meant. Asher Allen absolutely is not a starter. Now, that came out as Cedric Griffin, and I apologize for that. That is not who I meant, so good catch, Anthony, on that one. I did not mean Cedric Griffin. I think he is wonderful. I think he's a wonderful cornerback. It just totally sucks about that ACL injury on the kickoff return. It totally sucks, and you never know how those defensive backs are going to come back. That sounded kind of funny, but you get the idea. Mobility, obviously, in the at cornerback or safety or whatever is just like it's paramount. It's absolutely paramount, and you hope and pray to God that Cedric Griffin comes back nicely from that injury. So no, I did not mean Cedric Griffin should not be a starter. It's unfortunate that he won't be right away because of the injury. Obviously, he won't be playing. But I meant Tyrell Johnson should not be a starter, the free safety for the Vikings. And, of course, Medea Williams should not be a starter either. I've had a couple of minor arguments with people on that one. Medea Williams, to me, is really bad. He really is. I think he's a bad player. All he does is hit people hard. That's what he does. That's all he does. So did Corey Fuller. He hit people hard. That's about it. Oh, goody. He hit somebody really hard. He's a Pro Bowler, man. Because he can smack people in the face. That's great. So that's my comment about that. So that's the mistake. It came out wrong. I'm going to try to be more sharp as much as possible. I try to be sharp all the time, just sometimes it slips because there's like 99 players, Well, yeah, technically 53, but you get the idea. I'm just exaggerating intentionally. Names just come out wrong, especially Jared Allen, Asher Allen, stupid things like that, despite the fact they play different positions. But enough of me rambling about myself. It's about the team here. And, that was an awesome call-in. I hope you keep calling in, Anthony. It'd be terrific. And I'm going to make sure to keep in touch with you on calling in. And generally, as I'm going to keep saying, Monday afternoons. So usually I would recommend to try to call in for you listeners out there. Call in by, I'd say Saturday-ish. Call in by Saturday at the latest. So like from right now, like Monday, whenever you're listening to this, I'll just say as far as right now, Monday-ish to Saturday if you want to be on the next show. Otherwise, it just might possibly have to lap into the next show. And I apologize for that. It's because the file goes to Dylan Richardson, our executive producer. And then I'm at the mercy of when he's home or whatever, or when he's able to get to that email and then send it to me. It's just, there's nothing wrong with that. He's a human being. He's not always home or whatever. He's busy with something. That's just how it goes. It's kind of, it's a three-man deal. It's from you to Dylan to me. So, and that all has to occur before the show is recorded. So again, I would say Saturday-ish at the latest is recommended if you want to be on the next show. So you get the idea right now. That means this coming Saturday if you want to be on episode number 62 of Purple Mafia. So there you go, everybody. 209-736-7877. Well, the news continues to happen, and the Vikings have signed a kickoff specialist. That's the extent of the Vikings, the former Gopher, Lloyd. He's a kickoff specialist. That's it. Now, that helps with field position, not field goal position, but field position. And the Vikings need field position all the time. That wouldn't have hurt in previous games this past season. It sure wouldn't have. Lots of interesting stuff kind of floating around the NFL. Before I get to LT, LaDainian Tomlinson. God rest his career with the Vikings. That sucks. A couple of deals, though. The Cleveland Browns getting rid of both of their quarterbacks. How about that? Derek Anderson, gone. Let go, possibly heading to the Arizona Cardinals or the Seattle Sea Chickens. He'd be backing up, of course, Matt Hasselbeck, who's aging and injury-prone, but less likely to get a chance to start there because of Matt Hasselbeck being there. And, of course, the Sea Chickens are not – they don't have the offensive firepower as the Arizona Cardinals and Brady Quinn, get to him in a second. Derek Anderson has a legitimate chance to become a starting quarterback again. He's made mistakes. He doesn't really have it through between the ears as much as he has skill. But with an offense like the Arizona Cardinals do have still, even without Anquan Boldin, if I were Derek Anderson, I would strongly consider the Arizona Cardinals, and they have a better coach too. I mean, they do. It's plain and simple. They have a better coach. It should be very interesting there. So the Golden Boy, the other Cleveland Brown quarterback that a lot of people were excited about, 7th overall pick a few years back. Excuse me, not 7th overall pick, but that was Adrian Peterson that year. Brady Quinn, that was kind of funny. He's going to the Broncos. How about that? Brady Quinn is going to the Broncos, so we'll see how that works out. The trade was, oh my goodness, the trade was for fullback Peyton Hillis, a 2011 6th-round draft pick, and a conditional pick in 2012. Ooh, 2012, the utopia for the new world order. Watch out, ladies and gentlemen. And no, I'm not kidding about that, so let's just move on. And the Browns sign Jake Delhomme to a 2-year contract. Huh? The Browns signed Jake Delhomme to a 2-year deal. They already gave up on Brady Quinn, and they got a fullback in return.
Holy crap, Batman!
And a 6th-round pick and a conditional 2012 pick inside Jake Delhomme.
It's just, like, what were they thinking?
That's, okay. That's interesting. I'm just, I don't really get what they're doing over there in Cleveland. I really don't. Brady Quinn wasn't great, but Jake Delhomme. Yeah, I'm a little speechless on that move. I'm glad I'm not a Browns fan. I'm thrilled I'm not a Browns fan, folks. I mean, I'm very, very Timberwolves-like type move right there. I had to get that shot in, by the way. That's just weird. That's weird. But yeah, now let's continue this. 49ers. That's right, the San Francisco 49ers. You know, the team that used to have really big-time stud quarterbacks. Well, they had two of them, of course. Joe Montana, the bigger of the two, and Steve Young. And then the third one, Jeff Garcia, was pretty good for a little while there with T.O., Terrell Owens. Well, it's come to this, folks. They traded Sean Hill. They traded Sean Hill for a 2011 draft pick. Doesn't even say how high of a pick. Yeah, Sean Hill, remember the third-string quarterback of the Vikings, played, well, he did what he could against the Vikings last year, despite the fact San Francisco had a nice game defensively. I mean a really nice game defensively in the Dome last year before they eventually just totally faded away. Second half of the season did the 49ers. A lot of us thought they were going to make the playoffs. They trade him to the Detroit Lions, oh goody, for a 2011 draft pick. And so which draft pick is that? That's where it gets kind of funky right there. And they signed David Carr. All right, there you go. 2-year deal for David Carr.
I'm so pumped up, Joey!
Absolutely awesome. Good, exciting news. I'm sure the 49ers are nailing the ticket box right now. The 49ers faithful in San Francisco, where they bleed red, just like everybody else, literally. But, yeah, they wear red, lots of red on Sundays. Okay, we'll move on from that kind of goofy talk. Very exciting stuff by the 49ers and Cleveland Browns. That is pretty cool stuff. Yet, you know what? It's still, right now, I would have to say, exceeds the interest level of the Vikings offseason to this point. Yeah, we tried to get LaDainian Tomlinson, but he's going to the Jets. We took him to Manny's Steakhouse, and he buys roast chicken. Okay. Hey, not a bad choice. I'm sure it tastes great, but it says Manny's Steakhouse, not Manny's wood-roasted chicken or anything. So that's another interesting one right there. Yeah, this is just getting weird. This offseason is getting weird. Ray Edwards is talking to the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm just... it doesn't get any better, folks. And, of course, Artis Hicks. I didn't even actually mention it. I mentioned it at the intro and last show. Yeah, Artis Hicks went to the Washington Redskins. A little less depth for the offensive line, of course. And I'm going to say this now. Vikings really need to get some... they really need to get at least one or two offensive linemen in the draft. Hopefully they can sign somebody who's halfway decent here. I'm at this point, and we might be looking at June for that. That's pretty much what kind of move an Artis Hicks was in the past as well. You kind of pick him up late. I still remember that when Brad Childress came here, plucked Artis Hicks from the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles were kind of, there was a money issue there. Of course, there's money issue going on here. That's why we lost Chester Taylor, and Chester Taylor is apparently more about the money than playing. And no, that's not a shot that I'm taking on Chester Taylor. And unfortunately, it's a known fact, I guess, according to multiple sources in the Minneapolis media here, unfortunately. So that's not just me trying to take a shot at Chester Taylor for leaving. It's a fact. So hate to say that. So let's move on here. I'm bouncing around, and that's just the way it goes. Ray Edwards. Ray Edwards, anyway, excuse me. And, of course, Ray Edwards is a restricted free agent. They tendered him at a first-round level, $2.5 million. And, of course, if he receives an offer, so like signs an offer sheet just like in basketball, the Vikings would have 7 days to match it. And if they don't, the Vikings would receive a first-round draft pick. So that's the good part. At least we'd get a draft pick out of it, but I'm sure it would be fairly low because it'd be from the Eagles, and I kind of think the Eagles are going to be pretty good this year. Unfortunately, the New Orleans Saints also are interested in Ray Edwards. This, according to Rick Alonzo of the Pioneer Press. So now we're going to talk more about LaDainian Tomlinson. It's pretty much the final topic of the day. That's about it right now, as it's getting pretty quiet. I'll chime in a tiny bit on Brian Westbrook at the end here. He went to the New York Jets. New York Jets. Imagine that I'd do that. Went to the New York Jets, and I can understand why. Unfortunately, as frustrated as I am, and as it's disappointing because that would be my two favorite running backs since 2001. LaDainian Tomlinson. I just called him LaDainian, and I always tried to get him in the fantasy teams well before he had that 28 touchdown season, by the way, and I was able to get him number 3 overall that year. Wink, wink to all of you out there. I mean, hey, I was infatuated with LaDainian Tomlinson since he got to the NFL, and he didn't disappoint me at all. I've been infatuated with Anquan Bolden. A lot of you that know me and have heard me on the airwaves. Yeah, I've been infatuated with him as well for many years, and he didn't let me down. He took a little longer to kind of achieve his greatness, but he eventually did. Sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right. LT, of course, hit that 30-year-old wall, unfortunately, this past year. But he still managed to get 12 touchdowns, 700-plus yards, as well as yards per carry. That sounded funny. Yards per carry, 3.3 past year. Not the most exciting numbers, but I got to think of Minnesota, and with so many weapons, things that open up a little bit. Not that San Diego didn't have many weapons, but no. Now we're going to get to the point here. The New York Jets and the Minnesota Vikings were obviously the two teams that were the finalists. It was the LaDainian Bowl, basically, between the Vikings and the Jets. You have the probability, I'm going to say that, probability of Brett Favre coming back. You have Adrian Peterson to play behind and to help nurture. And we're not going to have that now. That really sucks big time because Chester Taylor actually did not nurture Adrian Peterson much. That's what the talk is again. He was more interested in just, being a starter or getting playing time than helping out a fellow position player. LaDainian Tomlinson is more the type that does help fellow position players, a la Chris Paul, New Orleans Hornets with Darren Collison. Notice how that turned out. Whew. But New York Jets also have a window to win a championship as well. As remember what they did last year. They have that nice, talented young defense. They have a solid young quarterback. They have an excellent young running back as well in New York. And really, this is what a lot of us believe this came to. It came to the window of opportunity to win a Super Bowl. Right now, the Vikings window is at probably 1 year. Most likely 1 year. If Favre does come back, I gotta say, and with Favre, you never know. But I gotta say 75, 80% chance this is his final year if he comes back. I mean, it's got to be. Almost definitely, even if he does come back. Or, that's if he actually does. He still has to, and I still think he will. New York Jets have a window of opportunity that is a lot larger. So even if the Jets do not win the Super Bowl this year, there's still a good chance they could win it next year, or at least get there, or compete for it. The Vikings, who knows what they're going to be 2 years from now? Who knows? Maybe we'll get Colt McCoy or Tim Tebow, and they'll blow up. Maybe they'll blow up. Or at least, they'll learn a lot from Brett Favre, and they'll be a nice young player like Sanchez was for the New York Jets. Probably not immediately like Sanchez, but you get the idea. A nice, solid quarterback. We'll see how that turns out. But it really, it came to that. And, of course, the appeal of New York City and of course, more playing time for LaDainian Tomlinson. I mean, playing behind Adrian Peterson, it doesn't mean much playing time. In New York, he's going to get a little more playing time because it's not as much of a guarantee with Sean Green. He's excellent, but Tomlinson is going to get a little bit bigger workload over there in New York. That's just a known fact. And, unfortunately, I guess that's a teeny tiny bit of Chester Taylor there in terms of the playing time part. But the championship window, I guess I can't blame him, though. Man, oh man, oh man, that would have been like a dream team if LaDainian Tomlinson indeed worked out. Okay, now before I forget, and I'm good at doing that, I better get to that Facebook board right now. But I'm going to take a break first so I can get there, so we'll be right back after this. We are back here on Purple Mafia, episode number 61, which is a reminder for iPod, Microsoft Zune, and other MP3 player users. Thank you again for joining. Real quick, speaking about that whole MP3 thing, I've heard a trend lately. I've noticed a trend lately that people say they don't have time to sit in front of a computer to listen to my show or, podcasts, not necessarily my show, but podcasts in general. There are multiple solutions for that. Now, I understand some of you may choose to sit in front of the computer, and hey, that's fine. Sometimes the speakers are nice that way, and you can still do other things while it's playing. That's one thing I can say. Like, whatever it is, just use that's up to you. Of course, there's always the iPod, the iPod way. Just download it onto iTunes. It's on iTunes, and upload it onto your iPod. And then there's the other way. If you don't want to spend the money, the coin for an iPod, because they can be anywhere from $63 to $300, going from the shuffle to the top level ones, the really expensive ones, with the most data and all that stuff. You get the idea. There are always cheap MP3 players as well, and there's the big giant bar on the sportstuff.com where it says download right under my show or whatever show you're going to do, right under the particular show. Just click that. You'll get the MP3 file. And if you have a cheap little MP3 player that you could get for $20, $30 nowadays, plug it into your USB and slide the file over into there. It's that simple. So there's multiple solutions, multiple ways you can listen to the show. I just felt I had to get that out there because I get kind of tired of hearing the cop-out of people don't like to sit in front of the computer. That's like the least... That's probably the least way of doing it. You can download it right off the website. So... It's a lot simpler than some people are making it. No offense to anybody, just thought I had to get that out there. It just it simplifies things there. So let's get to the Facebook page. Yeah, the new Facebook group, Purple Mafia. The Purple Mafia group on Facebook. Purple Mafia - Minnesota Vikings show. So type in that, I guess, to look it up. Please do join. Cedric Paulding comments, where do the Vikings go in the draft? Now, yeah, I mean, I mentioned a couple times, I appreciate you listening, Cedric. I noticed you have another comment. I'm going to read that in a second here. That's quarterback related. I think they go one of two directions in the first round. In the first two rounds, though, I would encourage them to go both of these directions, quarterback and cornerback, or even safety. Cornerback and defensive back. There we go. That'll generalize that a little bit better. Colt McCoy or Tim Tebow is available with that first round pick at number 30. I got to do it. I got to do it unless there's a can't miss defensive back there. You got to get one of those two. I absolutely have to do that. It would be really cool to have a quarterback to develop behind Brett Favre here this year and possibly compete for the starting job 2 years from now. So there you go. Compete with whoever's still here. Probably Sage will still be here. Tavares Jackson is a restricted free agent right now. We'll see how that goes. Not really sure. Not really sure how that's going to go. We'll find out. There hasn't really been much conversation about old Tavares anymore lately. There really hasn't. So now, Cedric Paulding's continued comment is, would McNabb be the logical replacement if Brett retired, or would the Vikings be content with Tavares Jackson? Thank you. And I thank you, Cedric, because that adds to the show very much. And I think Donovan McNabb would absolutely be a nice replacement. A lot of people don't agree with that, and a lot of people do agree with that. It's part of a debate. Yes, I would like Donovan McNabb if Brett Favre were retired. He would be a fantastic quick fix, and it would make the window a little bigger. It'd make the window 2 to 3 years bigger, really, or I would have to say, for competing for that Super Bowl championship. Because Donovan McNabb has been to the Super Bowl, and he's been to multiple conference final games. Unfortunately, he's only won one of the conference final games, and he's been close, but oh so far against the New England Patriots back in 2004. I like McNabb an awful lot. We know Coach Childress does, and we also know the Philadelphia Eagles upper management is done with Donovan McNabb. And Andy Reid is defending Donovan and doesn't want to get rid of him, though who knows if that's just posturing, just to make Andy Reid look better so he doesn't destroy a potential relationship between him and Donovan over the years. They've been together for quite a while, since 99. I'm telling you, folks, I've been impressed with Donovan McNabb since he threw his first pass against the Vikings in the preseason in 1999. I was like, I really like this guy. He's pretty good. They're like, yeah, this guy's going to make it in the NFL. And no, I'm not trying to say I'm a genius here. I'm just saying I've been impressed with the guy since I saw him throw his first pass. I like Donovan McNabb, so the idea of bringing him here to stay in the West Coast offense, to play for his former offensive coordinator who didn't call the plays. Don't tell anybody, right? That's a big secret, isn't it? But who does call the plays now? Well, him and that, of course, being Darrell Bevell, who is obviously well associated with Brett Favre and helped bring him here. That being from this Packer era with the West Coast offense, and of course Donovan McNabb, West Coast offense. Yeah, good. I think it'd be a good match, and I'd take him. I've always liked Donovan, and I'd always liked Donovan. Yes, Donovan. Okay, enough. That would be nice to have him here. So good thoughts, Cedric Paulding. Appreciate it very much. Continue to post on here. Be a part of the show. Dylan Richardson chimes in. His comment is, now, of course, Dylan Richardson, executive producer of thesportstuff.com and host of NFL East to West. I just might join that show this week, or Dylan Richardson will be joining mine, or actually both. We've been in comments about that. We've been in discussions about that. So, yeah, do expect Palladino Live, Purple Mafia, I used to call it Palladino Live, Purple Mafia to be joined by Dylan Richardson in the not-too-distant future to talk some free agency and some draft. Would be really cool stuff, some off-season. So his comment is, I don't think Jackson will start. Good old Rosenfels will probably be the starter unless something happens via free agency. Remember last year they brought Sage in to more than likely be the starter. Yeah, I agree. It's just at the same time, yeah, I mean, he was brought in to be the starter, or at least to compete for the starting job. That's what they wanted to always say, because there's a lot of politics in this sport and in lots of other sports, especially the starting quarterback position, when there's no guarantee on who's going to start. There's just no guarantee. Jackson badly outplayed Sage Rosenfels, and which is really an indictment on Sage. And I mean big. The old helicopter Sage Rosenfels, by the way. YouTube, just type in Sage helicopter and you'll find out what I'm talking about. One of the worst plays in NFL history against the Indianapolis Colts in the 2008 season. Again, another indictment on old Sage. Sage Rosenfels, to me, looked awfully soft. Awfully soft from what I saw out of him in limited time last year. Very limited time in the preseason and such. Just looks like a soft player. He just does. Tavares Jackson looked more like a go-getter than Sage Rosenfels, which again is pathetic to say, because Tavares Jackson's go-get him ability was, you got Sidney Rice open, you got Visante Shengo open 20 yards downfield, raising his hand, so he throws a 1-yard pass to Nefahu Tahi on a 3rd and 9. Very astute stuff right there.
This doesn't make any sense.
But, yeah, he badly outplayed Sage Rosenfels last year in the preseason. That tells you something right there. No guarantee Tavares is going to come back. But at the same time, I hope the whole Sage Tavares conversation is over for good. I really do, about starting anyway at this particular time. Wouldn't be surprised if Sage does earn a starting job maybe for 1 year or something at some point, maybe depending on how things go. But I got to think the draft, or possibly a Donovan McNabb type of deal, could come up here at some point if Brett Favre does retire. So we're just going to have to wait and see how things go there. So good luck again to call into the phone lines to the show, 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. Those are the voice lines for thesportstuff.com, so please do mention you're calling in for Purple Mafia. Again, do your shout-out. Leave your name and town, like Anthony from L.A. That's exactly how it works. Joey from Golden Valley, that's me. Like they called me on Wolves Live the other day when I texted into that show. That was pretty cool. Halftime, of course, for the Timberwolves. So, yeah, please do that. It would be nice. It adds to the show. Also, do comment and join the Facebook group Purple Mafia. The Purple Mafia Facebook group. Just type in Purple Mafia, Minnesota Vikings. That's most likely where you'll find it. Simply join it and type on the wall. There's your comment. It'll get read on there, and you'll be a part of things. I'll probably even discuss with you on there as well, like I did. I just did not read what I said because I said it on air instead. I mean, I basically said exactly what I'm going to. It's going to be a lot of fun. Do join that group. I'd like to get as many on there as possible. just adds to the show. It just does. It makes it more fun, makes it more interesting. It's not just me talking when I know you guys are out there, but it feels like I'm talking, to invisible people. I'd rather, at least see words on a screen, if not hear a voice. That'd be pretty cool. If not both, would be awesome. Also would like you to please join the message boards on thesportstuff.com. How about that? Thesportstuff.com. There's a button in the upper right-hand corner there's a button in the upper right-hand corner that says TSS Boards. Click on that, then simply click register and join. Very simple. Post in that NFL section. It gets pretty cool in there. Lots of knowledgeable people. Talk about the Minnesota Vikings with Dylan, with Mavs fan, Jim Towers, all of the cool guys on there. So many more that I don't have time to mention. Would love you to please join and meet us. I'm Paladino Joey on there, and I'm your host of your show right now. Of course, do join the message boards. Would be appreciated very much. So we're going to continue to monitor the free agency. We'll be back next Monday. And remember, if you're going to call in, probably call in by Saturday at the latest. Again, please do that. That is another shout-out to those of you out there that would like to call in, because I know you're out there. Please do that. And again, the group, and join it. Follow the Twitter, twitter.com/Purple Mafia Show. All one word, of course. So thank you again for listening. We'll be back next week. Hopefully we got some good news to talk about and not more players leaving. So we'll be back next week with better news, we hope. Take care.